Hello, welcome to the middle of the semester, which is so crazy. So, this week you're working through right now week seven, or learning module seven, and then you'll move into week eight material, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, is all about GMOs. And so, this is the halfway point, which is really, really crazy. I know I told you at the beginning of the semester it was going to move really fast, and it is pretty crazy to think that after this week, you'll be over halfway done with the semester. So we're rocking and rolling. We only have about a month left to finish the rest of the materials. Hopefully you've started to get the hang of how the course is built, and kind of established that repetitiveness of things are due on Wednesday by midnight or Saturday by midnight, and the repetitiveness of the discussion board, and always responding to at least 3 of your peers, the current event, and then usually a quiz or something to really reinforce the concepts that you've learned within that learning module. So week 7 is one of my favorite weeks. This is where we talk about meat alternatives. So there is a lot of information out there right now about this idea that the population is growing at a crazy fast pace. We're expected now actually to be at like 9.5 billion by the year 2050. And so there's a lot of conversation of, with the increased population, people need to eat. How do we still sustain really everything that we're doing now and still feed a growing population? And there's a lot of information out there that says that we just simply can't, that we can't keep growing animals the way that we're growing animals and consume as much meat products as we think, in terms of like beef, cow, or beef, pork, chicken, those kinds of things, and that we may have to start looking at some alternatives. And so one of the suggested alternatives is cricket farming. And so you do have a picture up top of a cricket farm in Thailand. A lot of times we think eating bugs is like gross or foreign to us. And there's a lot of cultures around the world that is part of their everyday diet. So it's not foreign to them. So we have noticed a shift within the United States where a lot of people are really looking at what are some beef or meat alternatives. And so I really love the National Geographic article that talks about really just this idea of feeding the world. So it doesn't necessarily focus on alternatives to meat, but it definitely says, hey, we have to figure out how are we going to feed 2-3 billion more people by 2050. Since this is an ethics class, I really do like this embedded moral case for eating meat article. I will leave your thoughts and opinions up to you, and I will certainly keep mine to myself. And then as we're talking about meat alternatives, like I said, bugs is one of the things that researchers are really looking at as an alternative. When I teach this course face-to-face, I always bring in some crickets and some mealworms for students to eat in class. So I'm sorry that I don't get to share that with you all. Some of you would probably be brave enough to try it. Others of you would probably be like, that is so disgusting. But it's a really great opportunity for students to try something that maybe otherwise they wouldn't have had an opportunity to try. And then another thing that's really starting to catch on is this idea around lab-grown meat. So creating basically a meat product within a lab. And there's a lot of research out there that says this could be the next new wave. We're not at a place right now where it really is cost effective. So if you were to go out and buy some lab grown meat, you would pay hundreds of dollars a pound for some lab grown meat. And so we're not in a place right now where it can be offered as cheaply as what we find in the grocery store. And there's actually a lot of information, again, for and against this kind of method. A lot of people say that the factories that are created to produce this clean meat, the factories actually aren't as clean. So they're emitting a lot of pollution, which doesn't really help with this long-term solution. There are other sides of the coin that say, well, but if you look at the resources that cattle use, the amount of water that they're drinking, the food that they're eating, the food that we're raising like corn. Corn is an excellent example. You've probably seen fields and fields of corn. We're growing corn and we're feeding it to cattle. So could we be growing something else on that land to feed us and not necessarily have to feed that to cattle? So there's both sides of the coin. Certainly a really fun topic to talk about. And then Idaho Beef Council puts out this really great beef production story, which I think just really gives you a glimpse into farming and ranching, raising cattle within Idaho, which is really, really close to us, obviously. So this week, your discussion board is worth 30 points. So there's not a quiz, but there are a lot of questions here that you have to address. So you want to make sure that you take the time, the thought, that you follow the requirements for this discussion board, and that you also ensure that you respond to at least 3 of your peers for that discussion board to get full credit. The other thing that you're going to be moving into is within week 8. This is your midterm. Midterms are focused on the conversation around genetically modified organisms, and there's a lot of folks that have very strong feelings of whether or not they support or reject GMOs and what that's doing with our food systems, food safety, and really education. So this is an opportunity for you to educate yourself on genetically modified organisms because there is a lot of information out there. And so I do embed within this learning module both sides of that issue. So whether or not we should support GMOs or whether or not we reject them. Remember, as you're reading this information, you are forming your own opinion, and your opinion doesn't necessarily, it doesn't matter. If you feel like you want to support GMOs and you feel like there's scientific evidence and information behind it to support your opinion, definitely share that. If you feel like you reject GMOs and the science and the information behind why you reject them you feel is valid, that's a great stance to have as well. So don't feel like there is a right or wrong answer here. So as you're reviewing this GMO information, you are going to contribute to your discussion board just like you would any other week. But this is midterm week. And so as with most courses, a midterm is really that halfway point to either check your understanding. You may be doing a presentation for a class, like a communications class. You might be submitting a paper for an English class. In a science class, you might be taking a midterm test. In this course, because we're covering GMOs, your midterm exam is out there. So know that there is an extra component in midterm week. And that midterm is worth 50 points. And that midterm is all based on this food fight. So this documentary that's all about the debate over GMO labeling. So there's a lot of conversation around, a lot of people don't necessarily reject GMOs, but they want them to be labeled. So if I'm going to the grocery store as a consumer, I want to know, does this product contain corn that's been genetically modified, for example. But there's also people on the other end of the spectrum that are like, great, if I label this, do my uneducated consumers now choose to not buy this product because it has something on it that says this product was produced with GMO corn? And will people even know what that means? So it's really kind of this pendulum of how do we educate people about what GMOs are? If we were to label them, what would that look like? And it really is this debate over what does that do for the farmer? What does that do for the consumer? And where do you stand on that? So that is your midterm for the week. You do want to make sure, again, that you give yourself enough time to watch that video. That video is about 60 minutes long, so about an hour. And then you'll have your 50-point midterm exam that you'll need to complete. And so make sure you give yourself enough time to do that because it is due by Saturday by 11:59 p.m. As an FYI, just a few little tidbits. Remember, discussion boards, you always have to respond to 3 of your peers. Current events, you also have to respond to 3 of your peers. As we're approaching midterm, I always encourage you to go out and take a look at your grades. Make sure that you're getting the points that you were expecting to get on your assignments, and check. Just if something says 0 or you got like a 4 out of 10, take a moment to view the feedback that I gave you there so that you know and understand why you didn't get the points that you were expecting to get. The other thing is, remember, I am out in the campus garden, so if you are looking for an extra credit opportunity, I strongly encourage you to come out there and see me so that you can hang out in the campus garden with me and get some extra credit, pull some weeds. And again, this whole idea of where our food comes from, really connecting you with the growing and potentially the harvesting. We just harvested a bunch of radishes on Monday, which was just yesterday. And then the last thing that I just want to let you know is I am heading out for a camping trip. We're leaving Thursday night, pretty late at night, and not coming back until Sunday night. And I will not have internet or cell service. So if for whatever reason something in your week 8 goes crazy, please still send me an email. Just know that I won't be able to troubleshoot it until after things are due. So really try to work through it the best you can, but still send an email, and then I'll work through those. Probably Monday morning is when you'll get something back from me. So just know that there will be a little bit of a delay because I will be out of town enjoying beautiful Idaho in the peace and quiet without any technology, which is my favorite thing to do. So as always, if you have questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know. Otherwise, happy midterm week. Happy halfway through the semester. We only have a month left, which is super, super crazy. I will see you all next week, and enjoy this beautiful weather.